king had the sea whipped. That is the story, at least. An old Greek writer named Herodotus tells us that when a storm smashed the great bridge of boats laid across the Hellespont, King Xerxes of Persia did not simply sigh or curse his bad luck or order the work done again in silence. He ordered the water punished. The sea, in this tale, was struck with lashes, as though it were a servant who had failed at a simple task. It is such a strange picture that it has lasted for more than 2,000 years. A king standing at the edge of a grey strip of water, men with ropes, men with tools, men with orders. Then a command so grand and so odd that it sounds almost dreamlike, not because the sea could feel it, of course not, but because a king could not afford to look small in front of an army or in front of himself. We do not know how much of that scene happened just as Herodotus tells it. He wrote from the Greek side of the story, and he liked a sharp detail. Historians still argue over parts of his account, but even if the sea was never whipped at all, the tale stays with us because it feels true to something deep about empire. A king at the top could act as though the whole world ought to obey. The wind, the water, the bridges, the road, the grain, the people. And there were a great many people. When Xerxes ruled in the early 5th century BC, the Achaemenid Empire was one of the largest states the world had yet seen. It stretched from the shores of the Aegean to the lands near the Indus River. It held Egypt, Babylonia, much of Anatolia, the Iranian plateau, and more besides. Mountains, river plains, salt flats, vineyards, palm groves, mud brick towns, royal roads, wide fields of barley. If you lived inside that empire, you might never see the king. You might hear his name in an oath. You might know his face from a carving. You might hand over part of your harvest because someone said it belonged in the end to him. But most likely, the king would remain far away, a name carried on clay tablets, on sealed orders, on the breath of officials. Your own world would be smaller. A courtyard, a patch of shade, a store jar, a water skin, a loom, a goat, a little dust on your feet by mid-morning. That is the quieter truth of ancient Persia. For every king who shouted at the sea, there were thousands upon thousands of ordinary people who woke before dawn and did what had to be done. They baked bread, they ground grain, they drove donkeys, they patched roofs, they counted jars, they hauled stone, they spun wool, they sharpened blades, they checked the gate, they stood watch, they swept floors in places grander than their own homes would ever be, and then the next day they did it again. When we speak of ancient Persia, it is easy for the mind to drift upward, toward palaces, toward gold, toward tall columns and carved stairways, toward kings with long names and large plans, toward armies crossing bridges over narrow seas. But empires do not rest on strange kings alone. They rest on workers, on scribes with sore wrists, on women measuring out grain, on herders moving animals through dry country, on craft hands cutting wood to fit a doorway, on men in plain clothes carrying sealed messages from one station to the next, on children who learn early where the water jar is kept and how to keep dust out of the bread. The Achaemenid Empire began with Cyrus, whom later ages would call Cyrus the Great. He built something new in the mid-6th century BC, not from one tribe or one town alone, but from many lands folded together. After him came kings like Cambyses, then Darius, and later Xerxes. Their names survive in stone and in stories. They ordered roads, palaces, taxes, armies, and laws. They left inscriptions cut into rock. They spoke in those inscriptions of right order, of rule, of the favor of Ahura Mazda, the great god named in royal texts. But the empire they ruled had to be, lived in. That is different from ruling. A king can command a terrace to be built. Someone else must drag the stone. A king can declare a road open. Someone else must water the animals at the stop along the way. A king can demand tribute. Someone else must count sacks, tally sheep, weigh silver, and scratch the record into damp clay. And ancient Persia was full of such records. This is one of the quiet wonders of the Achaemenid world. Not a wonder in the loud sense. Nothing bright or sudden. A paper kind of wonder. A counting kind of wonder. In the ruins of Persepolis, archaeologists found thousands of clay tablets. Many were not poems or grand speeches. They were records, lists, orders, rations, names, place names, work assignments, travel notes, small acts of management baked hard by time. It is hard to sleep beside a king whipping the sea. It is much easier to drift off beside a ration tablet. And yet, those tablets tell us more. Not everything, of course. They do not open every door. They do not tell us what a child whispered to a tired mother in the dark. They do not tell us what a baker hummed while waiting for the oven heat to settle. They do not tell us which old man complained every morning about his knees, though surely one did. But they do tell us that ordinary people were there. They passed through storehouses. They drew wine or grain or flour. They traveled with authorization. They worked in groups. They served in households, in fields, in workshops, in herds. They left traces even if they did not mean to. That is a very gentle kind of survival. Not the survival of a bronze statue. Not the survival of a king's boast carved in stone. Just a name on a tablet, a measure of grain, a note that someone arrived or departed or received enough food for the road. Ancient Persia can seem distant because the scale was so large. The names alone feel wide. Susa, Persepolis, Babylon, Sardis, Ecbatana, the Royal Road, the satrapies, which were the empire's big provinces, the great king, the court, the tribute lists, the armies. But daily life was made of much smaller things. A wooden bowl, a cracked hand, a woven belt, a stubborn mule, a sour jar if the lid had not been set right, smoke in the eyes, cold before sunrise, a long stretch of work before the first real rest. The Persian kings understood power in large shapes, roads that crossed lands, storehouses that swallowed harvests, palaces raised high on stone platforms, ceremonies where delegates from many peoples brought gifts and stood in ordered lines. At Persepolis, even now, carved stairways show those long lines. Men from many lands. Some bring cloth. Some bring metal vessels. Some bring animals. Some wear hats shaped in ways that tell you where they came from. Their beards, robes, shoes, and gifts all differ, but they all move toward the same royal center. It is a calm sort of carving. No rushing, no wild scene, just order, step after step, gift after gift, empire as a slow procession. And that may be the best way to think about Achaemenid Persia at first. Not as one loud thing, not as one endless war map, not even as one culture, because it was never that simple. It was a broad holding together of many peoples under one royal house, with many local ways still alive inside it. Languages overlapped, clothes changed by region, food changed by region, gods changed by region. The empire was Persian at the top, but mixed all through the middle and the bottom. So if we want to know what life was really like, we have to be careful. We should not imagine every person in the empire dining like a king. We should not imagine every house looking like a palace wall carving. We should not imagine the Persians as one neat block moving in step. Real life is untidier than that. Richer too. Some people lived near royal centers and worked in systems tied closely to the court. Some lived out in villages where the king existed mostly as tax, rumor, and distant force. Some were free. Some were dependent. Some held rank. Some obeyed it. Some had servants. Some were servants. Some traveled roads with official permission and received rations at way stations. Others may never have gone farther than the next market town. Even inside the great palace world, much of life was still made of waiting, carrying, sorting, cleaning, storing, checking. There is something oddly soothing in that. Not for them, perhaps. Hard work is still hard work. A sawback in 500 BC hurt in much the same plain way as a sawback now. Dust was dust. Heat was heat. Hunger was hunger. But from a distance, the rhythm becomes almost soft. Sweep, lift, count, bake, walk, return. And all the while above this steady human hum, kings made large decisions. Darius built. Xerxes marched. Officials sealed tablets. Messengers rode. Boats were tied together. Storms came. And somewhere, according to that old story, the sea itself was beaten for not obeying. It is tempting to laugh at that. Gently, perhaps. Sleepy history allows a little room for a dry smile. Because if you are going to punish a body of water, you have already had a fairly difficult week. Still, it would be too easy to stop there with the odd king on the windy shore. He is only the doorway. The real house lies behind him. Behind the king are cooks and guards and horse handlers. Behind them are scribes and seal keepers. Behind them are farmers, shepherds, carriers, and millers. Behind them are wives, husbands, children, widows, old parents, hired hands, and all the nameless people who made the empire possible without ever appearing at the center of it. This is often how the past survives. A few famous names, then a crowd of shadows. But sometimes the shadows thin just enough for us to see movement inside them. A woman receiving grain. A worker traveling between stations. A group assigned to a task. A child implied, not named outright, but present in the shape of the household. A foreman. A herdsman. A person whose whole brush with history is a single line pressed into clay. There is something tender in that too. Not because their lives were easy. Many were not. Not because ancient Persia was some quiet golden land. It was an empire, and empires ask much from those beneath them. But because even under that weight, daily life went on in human ways. Someone still had to fetch water. Someone still had to mend cloth. Someone still had to soothe a child. Someone still had to sit down at last after the light had faded and rub their aching hands. That is where we are going. Away from the whipping of the sea. Away from the king's fury on the shore. Away for a while from the royal voice that wanted wind and water to obey. We are going inland now. Toward the highlands and the road dust, toward the terraces of Persepolis and the softest mud brick homes below grand stone, toward storerooms, workyards, ovens, courtyards, animal pens, and sleeping rooms, toward the people who lived in the empire without ruling it. The sea can keep its mystery. Let the king stand there a little longer, with the storm still in his mind. We'll leave him by the water and step quietly into the morning world behind him. By sunrise, the stone is already warm. Not hot yet. Not the hard noon heat that presses on the neck and makes cloth cling to the back. Just warm enough to remind you where you are. On a high terrace of worked stone, in a land of dust, dry hills, bright sky, and long roads. This is the world of ancient Persia under the Achaemenid kings. Not one world, really. Many worlds tied together. A man could stand in Persepolis, look out across the plain, and feel he was in the center of things. A royal place. A place built to be seen. A place where stairs rose wide and slow, where columns reached up in clean lines, and where carved walls showed neat rows of tribute bearers moving forever toward the king. But a woman in Babylon would have known another world. A farmer in Egypt, another. A rider on the road near Sardis, another still. The empire was broad enough to hold all of them at once. That breadth matters. When we say ancient Persia, it is easy to picture one style of house, one sort of dress, one kind of meal, one way of speaking. Real life was not so tidy. The empire stretched over dry uplands, river valleys, orchards, marshes, mountain passes, and warm lowlands. Some people lived where winter bit the hands. Some lived where summer sat on the shoulders like a heavy blanket. Some knew palm trees, some knew cedar, some knew reed beds and mud, some knew bare hills and thin grass under a wide white sky. Still, the Persian heartland had its own feel. Dry air, open light. Dust that found its way into sandals, hems, food, and sleep. Long views over stony ground. Mud brick walls the color of the earth itself. And here and there, rising from that earth, royal works in cut stone, made to last longer than the people who passed beneath them. Persepolis was one of those places. It was not the whole empire. It was not even the place where every king always lived. But it mattered. It was a royal center, shaped by Darius I and added to by Xerxes and others after him. Ceremonial, administrative, full of message and meaning. A place where power could be seen in steps, gates, halls, carvings, and order. Yet even there the world wasn't made only of grand halls. Palaces need kitchens, terraces need drains, storehouses need doors, doors need hinges, hinges need metal, metal needs hands, and hands need food. So below the bright idea of empire sat the plain fact of keeping things going. The empire loved order. Not the dreamy kind, the counted kind. How much grain, how much wine, how many sheep, who traveled, who received rations, which road station gave out flour, which worker group moved from one place to another. This is one reason the Achaemenid world feels strangely near. It kept records, a lot of them. The clay tablets found around Persepolis are full of names, numbers, allotments, movements, and supplies. Not the whole empire, not every life, but enough to hear the faint creak of the machine. It is not the sound of battle, it is the sound of management. Someone is always arriving. Someone is always leaving. Someone is owed grain. Someone has authority to draw wine. Someone is sent along the road with a sealed note. Someone has to check the seal. Someone has to make sure the animals are fed. Someone has to count the jars when they come back. The roads were part of this world. Roads are quiet things until you need them. Then they become everything. The Achaemenid kings held together a huge stretch of land, and roads were one way they did it. Not every road was grand. Not every track was smooth. Some were little more than worn paths with dust and ruts. But certain routes mattered deeply, and the state watched them. Messages, officials, goods, animals, and news moved along them. A road can be power laid flat on the earth. Along those routes were stopping places, not inns in the modern sense, not cozy roadside taverns with cheerful signs swinging out front. More practical than that. Places where approved travelers could receive food, drink, and fodder for animals. The system worked because people could prove who they were and what they were allowed to take. A tablet, a seal, a written order. These things mattered. Without them, the road was just distance. With them, it was a chain. And somewhere on one of those roads, dust rising behind a pack animal, an official traveler might have passed a line of laborers heading the other way, or a herd, or a wagon axle in trouble, or soldiers, or women attached to a work group, or a local farmer who cared very little for imperial grandeur and a great deal for whether the next rains would come. That too was Persia. The king's world touched the ordinary world, but not always in shining ways. Often it touched as tax, as labor, as obligation, as a visit from an official, as a ration issued from a storehouse, as a road to maintain, as a son taken into service, as a message no one in the village quite understood, except that it had to be obeyed. The empire had layers. At the top was the king, the great king, distant and enormous in theory, even if he was only one man in a robe when seen up close. Around him stood nobles, royal kin, courtmen, commanders, priests, and high officials. Beneath them came satraps, who governed large provinces, and many lesser officials under them. Then scribes, clerks, overseers, seal keepers, storehouse men, garrison heads, transport workers, craftmasters, and the long human ladder of those who made rule real. And below that, if below is the right word, were the many ordinary people who fed the whole thing. Farmers, herders, builders, porters, millers, weavers, bakers, stable hands, servants, guards, children carrying smaller burdens than adults, but burdens all the same. Some had more freedom than others. Some had land, some had skill, some had rank, some had none. The empire contained rich men who wore fine cloth and gave orders in shaded halls. It also contained workers whose names survive only because someone counted out their ration. That is a wide social spread, wider than carved palace scenes usually admit. And then there were the languages. The empire did not speak with one tongue. Royal inscriptions might appear in Old Persian, Elamite, and Babylonian. Administrative work around Persepolis often used Elamite. Aramaic traveled widely as a useful language of management and exchange. Local peoples kept their own speech as well. So the sound of the empire, if you could hear it all at once, would not be one voice. It would be many. A murmur, a market noise, a stable argument, a scribe reciting a formula, a traveler asking for water in one tongue and getting an answer in another. That mix shaped daily life. A person might serve a Persian ruler, draw rations recorded in Elamite, pass through a place with a local name older than the empire itself, and meet strangers whose clothes told their story before their words did. Clothing mattered in such a world, not only for warmth or decency, though both helped. Clothing told rank, region, work, and means. Fine robes fell one way, worker cloth another. Leather, wool, linen, dyed fabric, plain weave, stitched edge, soft shoe, hard sole. All of it said something, even before a person spoke. The built world said things too. A grand Persian center could look orderly in stone. Straight lines, raised platforms, repeated forms, controlled space. The sort of place where even shadows might seem obedient. But most people did not live in carved stone halls. They lived in mud brick houses, That is worth remembering. Mud brick sounds humble because it is humble. Earth mixed, shaped, dried, stacked. It cracks, it wears. It melts back into the ground if left untended. But it is also clever. It keeps heat out when walls are thick. It uses what is close at hand. It belongs to dry places. A mud brick home does not impress the eye like a palace, but it can serve a family well enough. Inside such homes, the world narrowed in useful ways. A sleeping space, a hearth or oven, storage jars, tools near the wall, maybe a courtyard, maybe animals close by, maybe not much room at all. The king could dream in columns. Ordinary people lived among bowls, baskets, mats, smoke, and clay. Even the smell of the empire changed by place. That is the sort of thing grand history books do not always bother with. But it matters when you want to feel a world. Near storehouses, grain dust. Near stables, dung and leather. Near kitchens, bread, onions, herbs, and hot clay. Near roads, dry dirt and sweating animals. Near a canal town, damp earth. Near a palace workshop, cut wood, oil, and the bite of worked metal. And then, somewhere nearby, a garden. Persian elites were fond of ordered gardens, planted and watered, shaped into calm places inside a harsher land. Trees, shade, channels, fruit, walls keeping out the open glare. The later word paradise would come, in part, from an old Iranian word for an enclosed park or garden. That is a lovely fact. Empire loved control. So did the garden. Water here, shade there. The room is still dim when the first person wakes. Not fully dark, not yet bright. Just that grey hour when shapes begin to return. A jar by the wall, a folded cloth, a low basket. Someone breathing nearby. Someone else already turning over, knowing the day has started, even if no one wants to say so. The floor is cool. That may be the last cool thing for a while. In a house of mud brick, the night lingers a little longer. Thick walls hold back heat when they can. They also hold the hush. Outside, there may be the sound of a goat shifting, or a bird beginning its small, stubborn call, or the scrape of a door in the next yard. Inside, morning starts with hands. A hand reaching for cloth. A hand pushing hair from the face. A hand feeling for yesterday's embers. This is one of the oldest morning jobs in the world. Not making a new fire, saving the old one. A few coals may have slept under ash through the night. If they did, someone kneels, blows gently, feeds the small. Red life with dry bits of fuel and waits. Smoke first, then a glow, then a flame if things go well. If they do not, the day begins with mild disappointment. Ancient life had a lot of that. We do not have a neat written guide to the exact morning routine of one ordinary Persian family in, say, 480 BC. No clay tablet says, at dawn, rinse face, relight coals, grumble softly, and look for the missing sandal. History is rarely that kind, but we do know enough about houses, tools, labor, climate, and daily needs to see the shape of the morning. It began early, and it began close to the ground. Before there is bread, there is grain. Before there is grain to eat, there is grain to grind. Before that, there is water to fetch, ash to clear, vessels to set right, cloth to straighten, animals to look after, and children to wake if they have not woken everyone else already. A household is a small machine. It starts with nudges. Someone rises first. In some homes, it may be a woman. In others, an older child. In others, a servant, a dependent, a worker attached to the household, or simply the lightest sleeper. The first person up has a small power. They set the tone. quietly if they are kind, less quietly if the morning is not going well. Clothing waits in a heap or folded stack, depending on the orderliness of the house and the mood of the night before. Nothing fancy for most people. Simple garments, wool, linen, leather where needed, a tunic, a wrap, a belt. Layers when the air is cold, less when it is not. Cloth that has been patched because cloth must be patched. Cloth that carries yesterday's dust because dust has manners of its own and goes where it likes. Fine robes existed, of course. Courtmen wore them. Nobles wore them. Palace reliefs showed draped, ordered garments falling in calm lines. But ordinary mornings were not full of flowing perfection. They were full of getting dressed. There is a difference. A belt must be tied. A hem must be shaken out. A shoe or sandal must be found. A child must be told again, not that one, the other one. The past is very noble until someone cannot find their other shoe. Hair comes next, or near enough. Hair had to be managed. So did beards. So did loose ends, knots, and all the small wildness that sleep leaves behind. A comb, if the house had one. Fingers, if not. A tie of cloth. A pin. Oil in some cases. Care as much as means allow. The palace world liked neatness. Ordinary life liked neatness too. It just had less time for it. Then water. Water is one of those things that every ancient day leans on. You wake, and sooner or later there it is. Needed, carried, poured, guarded, used with thought. Not always scarce, but never trivial. Water for drinking, water for washing, water for mixing dough, water for animals, water that must be fetched from a well, a jar, a canal, a stream, or some shared source that ties households together whether they like each other or not. A person walking for water in the early light is part of the morning world everywhere. The weight has not yet become tiring. The vessel is still empty or half empty. The road, if there is one, has not begun to glare. There may even be a kind of peace in it. A few words with a neighbor. The low slap of sandals. The feel of cool clay against the palm. Then the jar fills. Then the walk home becomes more serious. Back in the house, the morning smell begins to change. Night air gives way to smoke. Smoke gives way to warm grain, if all goes well. There may be onions, herbs, maybe yesterday's bread warmed near the fire, maybe porridge, maybe something carried over from the day before. We should be careful here. We do not know the exact breakfast of every Persian worker or farmer, but we know grain stood close to daily life, and meals for ordinary people often leaned on what was simple, filling, and near at hand. Morning food did not need to be thrilling. It needed to get you to work, and work came early. That is easy to forget when we picture the ancient world as slow. It was slow in transport perhaps, slow in messages, slow in distance, but not slow in labor. Labor begins as soon as it can. Animals do not wait. Dough does not wait. Sunlight does not wait. If a household spins wool, weaves, keeps stock, bakes, grinds, tends tools, or sends members out to work in larger systems tied to estate, workshop, or palace, then morning is not leisurely. It is a gathering of tasks. In places tied closely to the royal centres, some workers would already be moving towards storeyards, kitchens, pens, workshops, or routes assigned to them. The tablets from Persepolis tell us about organized labor, grouped workers, supervisors, and rations. That means many mornings were not just household mornings. They were reporting mornings. Someone had to show up. Someone had to be counted. Someone had to carry the seal, the order, the authority, or at least the memory of who was meant to be where. This is where the great empire slips quietly into the room, not with trumpets, with obligation. A woman knows she must join a work group. A man knows he must take animals out. A scribe knows he must sit and make marks for half the day. A carrier knows what route he has been given. A servant knows whose temper arrives before sunrise. Empire is often just that, knowing where you must be by morning. The children, meanwhile, belong partly to the rhythm and partly outside it. They help, they watch, they carry smaller things. They learn by standing in the way until someone teaches them not to. They are sent for water, kindling, scraps, thread, bowls, messages, younger siblings, older siblings, missing tools and patience. Not always in that order. We do not know every detail of childhood in the Achaemenid world, and it would be wrong to paint it as one shared experience. A child in a wealthy house near court had one life. A child in a rural work household had another. A child in Babylon, another still. Yet some things do not need much guessing. Children in old households learned early that work was real. So was hunger. So was waiting. So was being useful. An older person may already be awake too. An old mother. A father with a stiff knee, a widowed aunt, a grandparent who no longer lifts the heavy things, but still knows where the good storage cloth is, or how hot the oven should feel, or which child is pretending not to hear. The ancient household could hold more than one generation, more than one rank, and more than one strain at once. That gives a morning depth, not just workers rising, a whole web stirring, and outside the world grows louder. Not loud by our standards, just layered. A donkey, a cartwheel somewhere, the cluck or cry of birds, a voice over a wall, a pot set down, a gate opening, a broom on packed earth, the first true cough of the day. There is comfort in these sounds because they are so plain. No speech about empire, no royal inscriptions, no carved tribute lines, only the human start of things. This is the hour when history stops posing and begins tying its belt. Even in a palace complex, behind all the stone and polish, someone had this sort of morning. Servants rose, water was carried, fires were fed, floors were swept, tools were checked. Bread was made somewhere by hands that do not appear in royal art. The empire liked to show itself in order and stillness, but its mornings were made of motion, small motion, repeated motion, the kind that barely seems worth writing down, which is why it so rarely was. This is also the hour of mild uncertainty. Will the fire catch? Is there enough water? Did the jar crack? Did the child wake sick? Did the animal get loose? Did someone remember the grain? Did someone not? Every household has a little edge at dawn, a slight tilt between enough and not enough. Sometimes the morning begins well. The coals hold, the water is cool, the bread is decent. The youngest child is oddly peaceful. Even the goat seems willing to cooperate. This is not a daily miracle, but it does happen. And sometimes it does not. The fire sulks, the smoke stings, the dough sticks. Someone has misplaced something vital. Someone else is offended by this. A sandal breaks. A dog steals what should not be stolen. A person sets out already tired. This too is part of life in ancient Persia. Not every morning belongs in a relief carving. There are more nights like this one on the channel. Stay if you'd like. Pause. Anyway, the day is starting. If the household lives near a place like Persepolis, there is another layer to the morning. Workers and officials move toward a center. Some are headed for storerooms, some for building works, some for kitchens, some for transport, some for records. That means streams of people, each carrying the shape of the day ahead. A tool, bundle, a basket, a tablet, a seal, a knife, a coil of cord, a sleepy expression that no empire, however vast, ever quite managed to abolish. Named men like Darius and Xerxes sit far above this morning, yet even they depended on it. Royal power rested on ordinary dawns happening on time. Someone must open a gate, someone must feed the horses, someone must prepare the food, someone must account for the stores, someone must keep the workers moving. The king may speak of order as though it descends from heaven, but on the ground it often rises from a person with chapped hands relighting a fire. That seems only fair to remember. Morning light now reaches further into the room. The corners retreat. The jars look less mysterious. The floor is no warmer than before, but it soon will be. Food is eaten or carried off. Tools are lifted. Hair is tied back one last time. A child is called twice, then 3 times. The door opens. Outside lies the real weight of the day. Fields, animals, roads, workyards, storehouses, workshops, guard posts, counting rooms, all the places where hands repeat the same motions until noon. And so the private mourning gives way to the public one. The room empties, the ash settles, the vessels wait. The day, fully awake now, begins asking things of everyone. That is where we go next. Out past the doorway, into the labor, into the long, steady rhythm of work. By the time the sun is fully up, the day already belongs to repetition. A hand lifts, sets down, lifts again. A back bends, straightens, bends again. A foot turns in dust, then turns back. This is work before machines, work before humming belts and steel teeth, work done by arms, shoulders, hips, fingers, knees, work measured in loads, not speed, in hours, not comfort. In the Achaemenid Empire, almost everything began with labor close to the body. Stone had to be hauled, wood had to be cut, grain had to be ground, water had to be carried, animals had to be led, fed, checked, and counted. Jars had to be filled and moved and sealed and opened and filled again. Nothing drifted into place by itself. That is easy to miss when looking at the grand remains of Persia. The terrace at Persepolis seems so still now. The columns rise cleanly. The carved stairways keep their calm faces. The great halls seem almost effortless, as though they appeared in one smooth act of royal will. But stone does not climb hills on its own. Someone dragged it. Someone levered it. Someone set it straight. Someone fetched more water for the men doing that work. Someone brought food. Someone counted tools at day's end. The Persian kings like to present rule as order, and work is order in its plainest form. You stand where you are placed. You do the task in front of you. You repeat it until someone says stop. A big empire depends on that kind of rhythm. Not because it is noble, not because it is kind, simply because it works. At Persepolis and in the lands tied to it, the clay tablets show us a world of organized labor, groups of workers, named officials, rations issued out, travel recorded, supplies tracked. This means work was not only hard, it was watched. That adds another layer. To lift the jar is one thing. To lift it because someone wrote your allotment down is another. Some workers were tied to palace systems, some to estates, some to herds, some to transport, some to craft. Some moved in gangs or groups, with foremen or overseers between them and the people higher up. In such a world, labor was not only personal, it was administrative. A person could grow tired, so could a list, but only one of those mattered to the record. Let's start with the most basic work of all. Food work. It sounds gentle. It was not. Grain had to be grown, cut, bundled, hauled, threshed, stored, guarded, measured, and ground. Before bread could seem comforting, it had already asked a great deal of many people. Fields needed hands. Storehouses needed order. Grinding grain needed time and muscle. The meal at the end of the day began as labor in the morning, and often labor the day before that as well. A woman kneeling at a quern grinding grain might do the same motion over and over until it ceased to feel like motion at all. Just pressure, push, pull, dust, ache, then more of the same. Her shoulders would know the work better than words could tell it. The empire did not stand above such tasks. It rested on them. Then there were the herders. A herder's day begins early and stretches long. Sheep, goats, cattle, pack animals, horses, mules, donkeys. Each asks for something slightly different, but none asks politely. They must be watered, moved, kept from straying, checked for injury, counted, and sometimes counted again, because counting animals is one of the oldest ways to discover that one has vanished. Animals made empire possible, not just for food, for hauling, for riding, for carrying messages, for carrying grain, for pulling loads, for turning distance into something less cruel. A royal road means little if no animal walks it. In the records from Persepolis, animals appear often because they mattered often. They needed fodder. They needed handlers. They were part of accounting because they were part of movement. Somewhere, on almost any day, a man was cursing softly at a mule that had decided not to cooperate with imperial logistics. Some things do not change much. And then there were the craft workers, carpenters, stone workers, metal workers, potters, textile workers, leather workers, men and women whose hands had learned a task so well that thought no longer needed to lead every finger. The body remembered: cut here, smooth there, twist, fold, stitch, fire, cool, check, start the next one. There is something almost sleepy in that rhythm from a distance, less so when your rent depends on it. Textile work, especially, was endless. Wool had to be cleaned, teased, spun, wound, woven, mended. Cloth does not simply exist. In ancient households and work groups, it arrived by long patience. Women often appear in the Persepolis records as workers receiving rations, and some were linked to textile production or other organized labor. There were ranks among them, supervisors too. Even in tasks we now imagine as domestic and quiet, there could be structure, hierarchy, and oversight. A loom has its own mood. Not truly, of course, but anyone who has done repetitive handwork knows the feeling. A good stretch when thread behaves, a poor stretch when it does not. Tension too loose, tension too tight, a snag where none should be. A whole morning saved or spoiled by one small mistake. Ancient work was full of such tiny tyrannies. Stonework was another matter, heavier, slower, louder. A mason, cutter, or hauler spent the day among weight and dust. Royal Persian building used fine stone in places meant to impress, and that means quarrying, shaping, transport, fitting, and checking. Not every labourer was a master craftsman. Some carried, some cleared, some assisted. Some did the least admired work, which is often the work without which nothing starts. A beautiful column begins with dirt and strain. The king might be named on the inscription. The stone remembers other people too, just not in words. And then there were the scribes. They did not lift blocks, they lifted systems. A scribe sat with clay or writing material, names, numbers, places, and obligations. He listened, recorded, checked, repeated, applied a seal or noted the seal of someone else. The work could seem lighter than hauling sacks, and in one sense it was. But writing all day is its own burden. The back curves, the hand tightens, the eyes tire. The mind must stay neat while the world around it remains untidy. In a large empire, scribes are almost as important as soldiers, perhaps more so on ordinary days. A soldier can enforce, a scribe can continue. That is different. One makes fear, the other makes routine. Routine lasts longer. A named man, sometimes seen in these administrative worlds, is Parnaka, a high official connected with records and resources in the Persepolis tablets. He is not famous in the way kings are famous. That is what makes him useful here. He reminds us that much of imperial life happened below the royal spotlight, in the hands of men whose power was real but local, practical, and tied to supply. King's Point. Men like that make things move. Not all work was tied directly to palace centers, of course. Most people in the empire did not spend their day near carved reliefs. They worked in fields, in village yards, in workshops with cracked walls, in market spaces, in river traffic, in orchards, in places where the great king was mostly an idea and the real master was the season. A farmer has less use for ideology than for rain. Field work was ruled by the calendar and the sky. sowing, weeding, cutting, hauling, storing. The day could be measured by shade and thirst. The body learned where the sun would be before noon, how far water was, how much grain a basket held when it was truly full, and not merely optimistically full. Optimism has never harvested much. Villagecraft and farm labor likely blurred together often. A person might tend animals, mend a tool, patch a roof, carry a load, and help with food work all in one day. Ancient job titles were not always neat little boxes. Life asked for range. A household survived by doing many things well enough. Well enough has probably built most of human history. There were soldiers too, not always in battle. Mostly not in battle. That is worth saying. Armies in history can seem to live only in marches and clashes, but most soldiers spend more time waiting, standing, maintaining gear, guarding places, escorting movement, watching roads, and doing dull things in uncomfortable clothes. In the Persian world, garrisons, guards, and armed men were part of the daily frame. Not glamorous, just present. A spear also has long, boring hours. Palace workers formed another world inside the world. Cooks, cupbearers, sweepers, gatekeepers, storehouse staff, stable hands, ration clerks, people close to splendor but not equal to it. A servant might spend years in a place of polished order and still go home to a small room, patch sandals and tired hands. There is a special kind of distance in serving wealth without sharing it. Quiet distance, constant distance. And yet the work itself could carry pride. That matters. A skilled carpenter knows when a joint is good. A careful baker knows when bread has gone right. A practiced handler knows when an animal is uneasy before others see it. A good scribe knows when a count is wrong by one small unit. Even hard work can contain skill. Even watched work can contain dignity. We should not romanticize it. Hard labor wears the body. Repetition can numb the mind. Dependence on rations is dependence. Oversight is oversight. But people are not made only of suffering. They also make competence, habit, endurance, quiet pride in getting the thing done, whatever the thing may be. By late morning, the rhythm settles in. The first clumsy moments are over. Now comes the middle stretch. Not fresh anymore. Not yet. Finished. Just steady. Lift, carry, measure, turn, tie, pour, check, write, walk, return. This is the hypnotic part of the day. The sun rises higher. Voices flatten. Dust gathers on the same skin it gathered on yesterday. Tools feel more natural in the hand than rest would. Time becomes less like a line and more like a wheel. The same motion comes around again, and again, and again. Somewhere a foreman speaks. Somewhere a jar breaks. Somewhere a count must be done twice. Somewhere an animal resists. Somewhere a worker wipes sweat from the eyes with the back of the wrist and keeps going. Not because the work is loved, because it is there. This is the real engine of ancient Persia. Not only royal command, not only conquest, not only taxes and tribute and grand roads, those mattered, but beneath them lay repetition. Millions of small acts, most forgotten on the day they happened. The empire looked magnificent in ceremony. In practice, it often sounded like scraping, pounding, muttering, hooves, and the soft thumb of clay being pressed flat for a record. Even a place like Persepolis, built to show calm perfection, must once have been full of interruption. A tool misplaced, a shipment delayed, a door needing repair, a quarrel over allotments, a seal not where it should be, someone absent, someone ill, someone pretending not to be ill because absence was harder than pain. Empire is vast, Daily work is picky. By now, the body begins to think ahead, not to the end of life, not to politics, not even to glory, just to the next pause. A mouthful of drink, a bit of shade, bread, something with salt perhaps. The chance to sit without being asked to rise again at once. These are modest hopes. Most enduring hopes are. And so the morning's labor leans, little by little, toward noon, toward the meal, toward the jar opened in shade, toward bread broken by dusty hands, toward the small comfort that waits at the center of a hard day. By midday, even the dust seems tired. It hangs in the air a little lower now. The light is white. Hands are warm. Shoulders know the morning has been real. This is the hour when work loosens its grip, just a little, and people begin to think about food. Not feast food, not court food, just dinner in the old sense of the day's main meal, bread, grain. A few good things if they can be had. Something to drink. A patch of shade if fortune is kind. In the Achaemenid world, food changed from place to place. That matters at once. This was a large empire. A meal near Persepolis was not the same as a meal in Babylon or Egypt or Lydia or Bactria. The land shifted. The crops shifted. The tastes shifted. So there was no one fixed Persian meal for ordinary people. Still, some things turn up again and again. Grain above all, barley, wheat, bread, beer in some lands, wine in others, dates, onions, garlic, lentils, beans, sesame, herbs, figs when there were figs, a bar, little cheese in some places, a little meat when it was there. Most meals were built from what lasted, what filled the belly, and what the household or work group could count on. That is often the best way to think about ancient food, not as recipes first, but as reliability first. What keeps? What travels? What can be stored in jars? What can be measured? What can be shared out without much fuss? Bread sits at the heart of this. It often does. Bread is labor made soft enough to tear with the hand. Grain has already been planted, cut, carried, threshed, ground, mixed, and baked by the time it reaches the table. A flat loaf, a coarse round, a rough cake from barley meal, perhaps warm if the timing was kind, perhaps not. Either way, it is the sort of food that does not need to explain itself. It simply arrives and matters. An ordinary meal in the Persian heartland may have looked plain to a rich court man. But plain food is not the same as poor food in the sense of worthless. Plain food is often serious food. Food that does a job. Bread to fill. Onion to sharpen. Lentils to sit heavy and helpful. Dates for sweetness and quick strength. Maybe curds. Maybe herbs. Maybe a bit of oil. Maybe not. People ate what the land and the work allowed. And then there was drink. This too depends on place and rank. Water, of course, though the quality of it mattered greatly and not all water was equal. Beer-like grain drinks were common in Mesopotamia and nearby lands. Wine appears often in elite and administrative settings in Persian records, including the Persepolis tablets, where rations of wine can be tracked. This does not mean every ordinary worker sat about with elegant cups. It means that drink, like grain, was counted, issued and tied to system. Even a sip can have paperwork behind it. That is one of the odd comforts of the Persepolis archive. It lets us see food not as a romantic blur, but as a managed fact. Rations were measured, issued, recorded, given in set amounts to certain workers, officials, travelers and groups. The emperor did not merely rule people. It fed selected people in organized ways, because organized feeding keeps roads open, work moving, and authority visible. A traveler with proper authorization might receive grain, flour, wine, or beer for the road. A worker group might receive allotments based on rank, task, or status. Women appear in the records receiving rations too, and so do children in some disputed but likely related contexts. The details can be hard to pin down with perfect confidence. Still, the shape is clear enough. Food was counted because people were counted. That counted food may not sound cozy at first, but midday meals often are cozy, even in hard worlds. Not soft, not leisurely. Cozy in a narrower way. A wall casting shade, a shared loaf, a jar opened, someone passing the onions, someone scraping the last bit from a bowl. A pause in which no one is being asked for just a moment to lift anything heavier than bread. If you have worked hard enough, even plain food becomes rich in feeling. The first bite matters more than style. The coolness of water matters more than the cup. Salt matters. Silence matters. The chance to sip matters most of all. In a household setting, the meal might gather several generations together if work allowed it. In a labor setting, it might be a group of workers sharing what had been brought or issued. In a palace service world, some ate better than others, and some served while others sat. Rank never quite leaves the room, but hunger has a flattening effect. Almost everyone understands a noon meal, even the proud Chew. Royal Persian art does not tell us much about the daily table of common people. It prefers tribute, order, and state beauty. But archaeology, texts, and comparison with neighboring cultures help fill the gaps just enough. We know grain mattered. We know storage mattered. We know dates and onions mattered. We know animals were kept, though meat for ordinary people may have been occasional rather than constant. We know people ate in groups because people almost always do when life is organized around household and labor. The table is a social tool, even if the table is only the ground, and often it was only the ground, or a mat, or a low surface, or a place by a wall. It is best not to picture every meal served on elegant furniture with polished vessels catching the light. Many meals were simpler than that. A bowl, a rough cup, fingers, maybe a knife, maybe not. The body leaned, sat, crouched, balanced. The room or shade tree did the rest. This is where the empire becomes warm for a while. Not kind exactly, warm, because food brings people back to scale. A king may dream in provinces. A worker dreams in bites. A child dreams in sweetness. An old person dreams in softness and enough. There is also talk at meals, though not always much. A chidi, complaint about the work. A note about the animals, who is due back, who is late, whether the flour seemed short, whether the foreman was in a mood, whether rain might come, what broke this morning, what must be mended tonight, and sometimes, blessedly, nothing at all. Silence over bread is an old human skill, not sad silence, occupied silence, the sort that comes when people are tired enough that chewing is its own conversation. In better-off households, there may have been more variety, more oil, better bread, fruit more often, meat now and then, wine of better quality, more dishes, more servants moving about. In high elite settings, much more than that. But this script is not about royal banquets with carved cups and perfumed halls. It is about ordinary life, and ordinary life is usually built on staples. There is no shame in staples. Civilization rests on them. A date, though, deserves a moment. Dates were one of the great gifts of the Near Eastern world. Sweet, easy to keep, easy to carry, useful in many forms. The date palm gave food, fiber, shade, and order to settled life in many regions under Persian rule. Not everywhere, of course. Again, this empire was large, but in lands where dates grew, they gave a meal that small touch of kindness every tired worker understands. A bite of sweetness can change the whole noon. Onions too. The onion is a serious old companion. Sharp, sturdy, unfussy. It stores well, travels well, wakes up dull food, makes plain bread feel less alone. One almost suspects the onion has done more for history than half the men in stone inscriptions. That may be unfair, but perhaps only a little. Cooking itself was work layered inside work. Someone had to grind. Someone had to knead. Someone had to tend the heat. Someone had to keep ash from ruining the meal. Someone had to clean what could be cleaned after. In many societies, much of this fell to women, though not only women, and not in one simple pattern across the empire. The Achaemenid world was too broad for one neat rule. But food preparation was labor, real labor. And like much labor, it often became invisible once the meal appeared. The bread arrives. Its morning disappears. This happens in every age. The finished thing is praised. The making of it fades. One loaf on a cloth, half a day beneath it. At Persepolis and other royal centers, there would also, after food, the body speaks up. Pause. Not in words, in heat, in sweat, in the pool behind the knees, in dust on the skin, in the shoulder that has done too much of one thing for too many hours. The noon meal helps, but it does not erase the fact that a person lives inside a body. And in ancient Persia, as in any age, the body needed care even when there was little time for it. Pause. This is where history becomes very close. Closer than kings, closer than roads, closer even than bread. A person wakes in a body, works in a body, falls ill in a body, grows old in a body. Empire can sit on top of all that, but it never replaces it. The great king may rule from a terrace. A sore foot still hurts on the ground below. Pause. Let's begin with the simplest fact. Most people in the Achaemenid world were not clean in the modern sense for most of the day. That is not a judgment. It is just what work, weather, and water do. If you grind grain, carry loads, tend animals, bake near heat, walk roads, or labor in dust, then by midday you smell like the world around you. Smoke, wool, leather, sweat, sun-warmed cloth, a little grain dust, a little animal smell if animals are close by, which they often were. Ancient life had many scents. Very few of them came from tiny bottles. Pause. Still, people did wash. That matters too. Cleanliness was not unknown. It was simply shaped by place, rank, water supply, and habit. Hands could be rinsed, faces wiped, feet washed, hair combed, beard straightened, cloths dampened and passed over skin. A fuller wash might come less often, depending on work and access to water. In some places there were baths and stronger traditions of bathing. In others, a simple wash and wipe did the work as best it could. Clean enough is one of history's oldest goals. Pause. Water, again, sat at the center of everything. To wash with water means first having water. That may sound obvious. It is. It is also decisive. A household with easy access to a canal, stream, spring, or stored supply could care for the body differently from one that had to weigh each jar against cooking, drinking, and animals. So the question was never only, did people wash? It was also, how much water could they spare, and for whom? That is the kind of question the past often asks. Plain ones. Pause. Hair had a place in bodily care too. Hair grows whether empire is stable or not. So does beard hair. That means combs, ties, braids, trimming, perhaps oil where means allowed, and some effort to keep order against dust, sweat, and sleep. Palace reliefs show elaborate hair and beard styles for elite men, neat and patterned in almost impossible calm. Real life lower down the ladder was likely less perfect, but even ordinary people cared how they appeared. Hair can be practical, but it is never only practical. A comb is both tool and hope. Pause. Clothing touched the body all day, which meant the body and cloth shaped each other. Wool can keep warmth and also trap heat. Linen can sit more lightly where it was used. Leather protects and rubs at the same time. A belt helps hold things in place and also reminds the belly how long the day has been. Sandals protect the foot until a stone slips in. Soft shoes protect it until they wear through. Much of bodily life is negotiation with cloth. Pause. Hands tell their own story. A scribe's hand tightens one way, a mason's another. A weaver's fingers learn tension and patience. A baker's hands know dough, heat, ash, and weight. A herder's hands smell faintly of rope, hide, and animal. A body learns its work, and the work writes back upon it, usually not in ways worth carving into stone, but they're all the same. Pause. Then there is the face. Dust in the lashes, smoke in the eyes, dry lips, a little sore on the skin after labor, perhaps a cloth passed over the brow, perhaps oil used sparingly, perhaps nothing at all, until evening. The body can endure quite a lot if it must. History is full of people carrying on with less comfort than they deserved, and more endurance than seems fair. Pause. We know more about bodily care among elites than among common people. That is often the way of sources. Court life leaves traces. Palace goods survive. Fine objects are noticed. The ordinary rag, the worn comb, the wash water thrown out into dust. These are harder to recover. So this act, more than some others, needs honesty. We don't know every detail, but we know enough to feel the shape of things. One source sometimes brought into Persian court life is Ctesias, a Greek physician said to have served at the Persian court. He can be useful, but he must be handled gently. He wrote of elite circles, not village courtyards, and he is not always trusted. Still, even the fact that a court physician existed reminds us of a larger truth. Bodies fail, even rich ones, perhaps especially rich ones, in their own special ways. Ordinary medicine in the Achaemenid world was likely a mix of practical knowledge, local custom, inherited household remedies, and specialist help were available. Herbs, salves, poultices, oils, bandaging, rest when rest was possible, and prayer when rest was not enough. Different parts of the empire had different traditions, and Persia ruled over many of them. So there was no single neat medical kit for all. There was, however, pain. That part is universal. A cut hand, a strained back, a cough that lingers, a tooth that throbs, a stomach that has turned against you, a child with fever, a foot rubbed raw by the same sandal. The body does not care that you live in a famous empire. it complains anyway. There is something almost tender in that stubborn equality. Kings and workers alike can be bothered by a tooth, though the king usually had better options. We should speak too about smell without making it rude. Ancient people did not move through odorless air, nor do we really, though we try harder to pretend otherwise. In the Achaemenid world, scent came from sweat, oil, smoke, clay, leather, wool, animals, grain, and earth. In elite settings, perfumes and scented oils may soften that picture. The Persian court was known for refinement in many forms, but for most people, the body's smell was simply part of life. You knew your family by smell as much as face. A strange and homely fact. Beauty belonged here as well. Not only for the rich, though of course wealth helped. Jewelry, hair care, clean cloth, a pleasant scent, a smoother beard, a better belt, a little coal in some parts of the empire perhaps, depending on region and custom. People have always found ways to shape the body into something a bit more deliberate than mere survival. Even in hard lives, there is room for adornment. A person may be tired and still wish to look well. That seems reasonable. Women in the Achaemenid world appear in the records not as vague background but as workers, ration receivers, and in some cases supervisors. That matters here too. It reminds us that bodily life for women was not only domestic softness, whatever later fantasies might suggest. It could include labor, travel, pregnancy, childbirth, nursing, care work, and organized service. The body of a working woman bore the marks of labor just as surely as the body of a man, though often in ways the record only hints at. The archive counts rations more easily than strain. Childbirth belongs in this act, though quietly. Birth was part of ordinary life, and also one of its risks. We have reason to think that in some Persepolis records, women may have received increased rations tied to childbirth or children, though scholars debate some readings. It would be wrong to overstate it, but the possibility itself is moving. Somewhere in those systems of grain and wine and accounting, a woman had given birth, and the record, in its dry way, bent around that fact. A child entered the world. A tablet noticed. That is both touching and a little sad. A whole human life, and history greets it with paperwork. Then again, paperwork means someone was fed. There are worse welcomes. The body also ages, and age changes work. A younger worker can carry more. An older one may carry less, but no more. The knees go first for some, the back for others. Hands stiffen, eyes narrow against close tasks. Hearing dulls. Sleep grows lighter. Yet old people are rarely outside history. They remain in households as memory, caution, annoyance, skill, blessing, burden, comfort, and witness. An old hand can still show a young one how to knot cord properly. That matters. The teeth are worth a moment too, not because there is much gentle to say about ancient teeth, only because they remind us how narrow the gap is between routine and misery. A cracked tooth, an abscess, gum pain, food court where it should not be. All could make a day far longer than it already was. The grand history of empires tends not to mention this. Yet somewhere under the rule of Darius or Xerxes, someone spent a whole afternoon trying not to touch one side of the mouth. That is history too. Small, sharp, entirely real. Rest was medicine when it could be had. That phrase matters. When it could be had. A body wants time to heal. Work often refuses. So people carried soreness, strain, and minor illness through the day because there was little choice. A hurt wrist still had to lift. A tired leg still had to walk. A headache still had to sit in the counting room or the workshop or the field. Endurance is admirable from a distance. Up close, it is often just necessity in plain clothes. And yet the body has small comforts. A rinsed face, cool water at the wrists, sandals taken off, hair loosened, a cloth shaken free of dust, shade, the chance to stretch the back until it clicks or sighs or says, in its own language, not much, better, but better enough. Still awake, a quiet like is all it takes. Pause. There's a calm sort of humour in some bodily truths. A grand imperial order may reach from Egypt to Central Asia, but one pebble in a sandal can still command more attention than all of it. A king may be great, blisters remain unimpressed. By afternoon, the body becomes less of a silent partner and more of an argument. The sun presses down, sweat dries and returns, cloth rubs, dust settles again exactly where it settled before. A person notices weight more sharply, thirst more quickly, time more slowly, and still the day goes on. That is perhaps the deepest bodily fact of ordinary life in ancient Persia. Not that people suffered in some dramatic way every hour, only that the body was always there, asking, enduring, adapting, keeping the score. In elite settings, there may have been better oils, softer cloth, more shade, more attendants, more room to hide bodily discomfort behind ceremony. But even there, flesh remained flesh. Fatigue still came. Illness still visited. Sleep still failed some nights. A court is only a body with servants around it. The body wins in the end. It always does. So after the meal, and after the washing of hands, and after the small, brief return of strength, the body moves back into the world, less fresh than at dawn, more aware than before, a little fed, a little sore, a little dusty, entirely human. And because bodies do not live alone, they turn next toward the people who ease them, burden them, love them, depend on them, and share their work, toward family, toward friendship, toward the bonds that made a hard life livable. late afternoon, people begin to turn back toward one another. The work is not over. It may not be over for hours, but the shape of the day changes. A field hand glances homeward. A child waits near a doorway. Someone saves a small piece of food for someone else. Someone thinks not of the king, not of the storehouse, not of the road, but of a face. This is the quieter center of life. Not power, not wealth, people. An empire can count grain. It can count sheep. It can count workers, jars, roads, and tribute. It cannot easily count affection. That does not mean affection was missing, only that it leaves a softer mark. In the Achaemenid world, most lives were lived inside some kind of household. A household might be small or crowded. It might hold parents and children. It might also hold older kin, servants, dependents, workers attached to the home, or people tied together by need more than by blood. Ancient homes were not always neat little family circles. They could be layered places, full of duty, closeness, friction, memory, and shared labor. That last part matters. Shared labor often makes shared feeling. Love in the ancient world is hard to recover in plain words. People did not leave us many gentle little notes from ordinary Persian homes saying, "I missed you today," or "the baby laughed," or "please bring onions on your way back." History would be easier if they had, more touching too. But even without such notes, the shape of care appears. Someone cooks for someone. Someone carries water for someone. Someone works while someone else rests. Someone watches a child while another goes out. Someone gives up the better portion. That is a kind of speech. Family then was not only an emotional unit, it was also a work unit, a survival unit, a teaching unit, a place where skills moved from older hands to younger ones. How to knead, how to patch, how to tie a bundle, how to quiet a goat, how to keep grain dry, how to read a person's mood before speaking, how to live with less than you want and still rise in the morning. Many of the most important lessons in history never make it into official records. They pass from one tired person to another. Children stood at the center of this world in a practical sense, even when sources mention them only faintly. Children needed food, watching, teaching, correction, comfort. They also became useful early, not because anyone thought childhood should be hard in some grand moral way, simply because ancient households had work, and anyone able to help usually did. A child could fetch, carry, sweep, watch, learn, repeat, and slowly become part of the household rhythm. Help first, grow later, often both at once. There is tenderness in that, if we let it be plain. An older sister fixing a younger child's belt. A father lifting a jar down because small arms cannot reach. A grandmother setting aside the softer piece of bread. A mother, tired, herself, still finding the strength to smooth hair from a hot forehead. These are not royal acts. They are the acts that keep a life whole. Women appear in the Persepolis records more clearly than many people expect. They were not only hidden figures at the edge of the frame. We see women as workers, ration receivers, and sometimes as supervisors over other workers. That matters because it brings us closer to real households. It tells us that many women moved between care and labor, between home and organized work, between feeding others and being counted in the system themselves. That is a heavy braid of duties. A woman could belong to a household and still answer to a work group. She could care for children and still be measured by rations. she could be needed at home and needed elsewhere on the same day. The archive tells us little about how she felt, but the burden itself is visible, and so is the steadiness it must have required. Men too lived inside, expectations that tied duty to affection. A husband, father, brother or son was not only a worker under empire, he was also someone expected to bring home labor, food, skill, protection, or at least his own continued presence. This does not mean every household was warm and gentle. Some surely were not. Ancient life had harshness in it, and power inside families was not shared equally. But neither should we imagine old households as only stern little machines. They were made of dependence, and dependence often breeds feeling along with strain. People get under one another's skin. That is half the trouble and half the comfort. Marriage in the Achaemenid Empire is one of those subjects where caution helps. The empire was too large and too mixed for one single pattern to cover all people. A marriage in Persian heartland society may not look the same as one in Babylonia or Egypt under Persian rule. Customs varied, property varied, law varied, rank varied. Still, marriage broadly tied households together, linked property and labor, and created the framework in which many children were raised. It was personal and practical, often both. That is true of many human bonds. Friendship, too, rarely leaves neat records among ordinary people. Yet of course it existed. Men worked beside one another too long for friendship not to form. Women shared too many tasks for friendship not to grow. Children found one another, quarreled, copied, defended, and annoyed one another in ways children always have. A road station, a courtyard, a workshop, a shared yard by the water source. All of these were places where bonds formed by repetition. Familiar faces become trusted faces. Trusted faces become part of the shape of life. Sometimes care is very small, saving a place in the shade, warning someone that the overseer is near, lending cord, sharing oil, taking the heavier side of a load without comment, walking a little slower because the older person beside you cannot go faster. It is easy for history to miss such things. It should not. One of the gentlest details in the Persepolis records may be the suggestion that women who had recently given birth received different or increased rations. Though scholars still argue over some readings, we should stay honest about that uncertainty. But even the possibility opens a quiet little window. It suggests that within this hard administrative world, the fact of birth changed what was given. A child arrives, the account shifts. That is both bureaucratic and deeply human. And so, although we do not know her name in the way we might wish, we can imagine one real woman in the orbit of Persepolis, not in invented detail, not with made-up words in her. As the light begins to thin, people make room for things they cannot hold. Pause. Not grain, not tools, not jars. Other things. Luck, truth, fate, the dead, the hope that good words matter, the fear that bad deeds do not simply vanish into the dust. This too was part of life in ancient Persia. Not just work, not just family, but belief. Pause. Belief is harder to see than bread. It leaves fewer crumbs. And in the Achaemenid Empire, it was not one single tidy thing. That must be said first. The empire was large, very large. It ruled over many peoples, many old shrines, many local gods, many ways of praying, burying, cleansing and hoping. So when we ask what people in ancient Persia believed, the truest answer is broad and slightly unsatisfying. They believed many things, sometimes side by side. Pause. Still, in the royal heart of the empire, one divine name stands out clearly: Ahura Mazda. The Persian kings, especially Darius I and Xerxes I, named Ahura Mazda in their inscriptions. They spoke of rule, order, and kingship under his favor. They spoke as men who believed their power was not merely strong, but right. Not only successful, but aligned with truth. That word matters. Truth. Pause. In the old Iranian religious world, and in ideas often linked with early Zoroastrian belief, truth and falsehood were not small matters. They belonged to the shape of the world itself. Right order against the lie. Good thought, good word, good deed against what twists and spoils. We should be careful here. Historians still argue about exactly how Zoroastrian, the Achaemenid kings, were in the later, more formal sense of that word. The evidence is real, but not simple. So it is safest to say this. Royal Persian belief seems to have cared deeply about order, truth, rightful rule, and the divine backing of the king. That is firm enough ground. Pause. And for ordinary people, such ideas may have felt less like philosophy and more like habit. Speak truth. Keep faith. Do not break what should be kept. Honor what is clean. Show respect where respect is due. Ancient religion often lives in such small acts, not only in grand prayer. Pause. Fire likely held a special place in this world. Not every fire was sacred, of course. A cooking fire is still a cooking fire. A lamp is still a lamp. But flame, in Iranian tradition, came to stand close to purity, order, watchfulness, and divine presence. A steady fire at dusk would have meant practical comfort to any household. It may also have carried a deeper feeling, something living but not alive. Bright, disciplined, needing care. A flame is a good friend to thought. Pause. The royal inscriptions give us one level of belief. The Persepolis tablets give us another. In those dry administrative texts, we find traces of offerings, religious personnel, and rites tied not only to one neat royal system, but to a mixed world. Iranian divine names appear. So do older Elamite traditions and other local practices. That is useful. It reminds us that empire did not erase the old sacred map. It sat over it. A king may prefer one order. People keep older ones alive. Pause. This is perhaps the most human part of religion in the Achaemenid world. Its variety. A person in the Persian heartland may have spoken one set of names with reverence. A person in Babylon another. A person in Egypt another still. And yet all of them lived under the same king. Empire is good at collecting lands, less good at collecting souls. Pause. So a day in ancient Persia might move between many layers of belief. A royal inscription high on stone. A local rite at ground level. A family custom older than the empire. A muttered wish before travel. An offering made because it had always been made. The sacred is often built from repetition. Pause. What did people fear? That is often the right question. Not because fear is all religion is. Only because fear shows where hope is pointed. They feared illness, bad harvests, broken trust, travel that did not end in return, the anger of gods perhaps, or the pollution in a moral or ritual sense that comes when order is broken. A hard world gives belief plenty to do. And what did they hope for? Enough rain, healthy children, safe births, honest dealing, a just ruler, or at least a distant one, safe roads, a clean household, a death well managed when death came. The hope of ordinary people is usually modest. That does not make it small. Death sat near every ancient life, though not always dramatically. Sometimes it came by illness. sometimes by age, sometimes by the plain roughness of the world. How Persians of the Achaemenid age handle the dead is a subject where caution helps. Later, Zoroastrian practice is often linked to exposure of the body rather than burial in earth or burning, because of ideas about ritual purity. But for the Achaemenid period, the picture is not simple, and customs likely varied by region, status, and time. Royal burials themselves followed one pattern. Ordinary people may have followed others. We do not know as much as we would like. That is worth saying softly. Still, we can say this: the dead mattered, memory mattered, ritual mattered. A body did not become nothing just because breath had stopped. Something had to be done. Words said, acts performed. The living had to place the dead somewhere, in mind, if not only in ground. Every culture does this in its own way. The great royal tombs, cut into rock for kings like Darius, speak in one voice, high, orderly, confident. But common grief rarely sounds like that. It is quieter. A household missing one set of hands. A child asking where someone has gone. A bowl no longer needed. A sleeping place left neat. The archive does not record such moments, yet they must have existed by the thousands. Belief helps people live near such absences, not by removing them, by shaping them, giving them words, giving them a frame, telling the living what to do next. That may be one of religion's oldest kindnesses. There were also priests, ritual specialists, and caretakers of sacred acts, though again, the empire was too mixed for one simple priestly picture. In Persian contexts, the Magi are often mentioned by Greek writers as religious specialists. We should not pretend we know every detail of their daily role in every place, but the broad idea is clear enough. Some people were keepers of rite, memory, and sacred knowledge, just as others were keepers of grain or seals. A large society sorts duties. The sacred gets its share. Oaths mattered too. Empires run on paper, seals, roads, and fear. They also run on trust, and trust often leans on the sacred. To swear falsely is never only practical. It stains something. A promise carries more weight when heaven is invited to hear it. This may be why truth stands so close to royal Persian language. A liar does not merely annoy the state, he disturbs order. That is a very old idea, and still familiar. For ordinary people, belief may have appeared most often at the edges of uncertainty. Before a journey, before a birth, after a death, at the change of season, at dusk, at dawn, when a child burned with fever, when the rain held off too long, when someone was overdue on the road. People become religious in different ways when outcomes are beyond them. Ancient people were no different, and some of belief was surely simple habit. A gesture done because a parent did it. A phrase said because an elder taught it. A small act repeated for luck, cleanliness, reverence, or peace of mind, without anyone needing to turn it into a grand doctrine. That may be the most realistic picture of all. Most religion is lived more often than explained. There is a sleepy comfort in that, not in certainty, in repetition. Lamplit, hands washed, words murmured, silence kept, a child hushed, a small offering made. The world grows dark, the old forms hold. Even the empire's grandeur at this hour begins to shrink. The king has his inscriptions, the household has its evening. Both believe themselves to matter. Perhaps both are right, but only one of them happens in a room where someone is trying not to wake a sleeping child. That is where belief becomes most tender, not in stone, in care, in the sense that actions count, that words have weight, that good order begins close at hand, a straightened lamp, a truthful answer, a promise kept, bread shared fairly. These are almost religious acts, even when no one says so aloud. And as dusk deepens, the mind grows less eager for large answers. That is true now. It was true then. The fire is enough. The old names are enough. The hope that tomorrow comes in good order is enough. Soon the house will close itself against the dark. Doors checked, animals settled, ash banked, voices lowered. Belief, like daylight, will fold into the simpler rituals of night. And night is where we go now, slower, quieter, toward lamplight, warm walls, and the last small sounds before sleep. By night, the world has grown smaller. Pause. Not in truth. The empire is still vast. The king is still far away. The roads still run over hills and plains. Some caravan is still moving somewhere in the dark. Some guard is still awake. Some lamp still burns in a royal room. But for most people, the world has narrowed to the space around the fire. Pause. A wall. A doorway, a low lamp, a little warmth, the known voices. That is enough. Pause. The work of evening is quieter than the work of morning. Not lighter, just quieter. A door is checked. A jar is covered. A tool is set back in its place, or at least somewhere near its place. Animals are looked in on. A child is washed as much as the day allows. A last bit of food is shared out. Ash is shifted. The room settles. Pause. This is the hour when the body stops arguing and begins to sink. Feet are sore. Hands are slower. The shoulders have said all they mean to say. No one has become rich since midday. No one has solved empire. They have simply made it to dark. That is enough too. Pause. In an ordinary house, firelight changes everything. A room that looked rough by day now looks gentle. Mud brick walls soften. Jars lose their hard edges. A basket becomes a shadow. A folded cloth becomes a shape. Faces seem calmer in lamplight. Even worry looks quieter. Pause. There may be talk, but less of it now. A few words about tomorrow. Who must rise first? Whether the grain is enough, whether the animal looked right, whether someone is expected on the road. Then silence, or near silence, the kind that belongs to tired people who do not need to fill it. Pause. A child may still ask for a story. That feels likely. Not because we have a neat Persian text telling us exactly so in every home. Only because children ask for stories wherever there are children and night. A tale half remembered, a bit of family memory, a warning dressed as a story dressed as comfort. By the end, the child sleeps before the ending does. Pause. Older people may stay awake a little longer. They often do, sitting close to the last warmth, saying little, thinking old thoughts, listening to the house breathe, a cough, a shift, A murmur. The tiny sounds of people giving into sleep one by one. Pause. Outside, the dark belongs to different things. Dogs, wind, hooves in the distance perhaps, a gate somewhere, a late voice beyond a wall, and then less and less. Pause. Night in ancient Persia was never fully silent. No night is, but it was darker than ours, truly dark. A lamp makes a small island, the rest is suggestion, a roof beam, a doorway, the outline of someone lying still. Beyond that, the unknown. Pause. That darkness changes the mind. It slows it. The day cannot be worked on much more. The tools are down. The list can wait. Even the foreman, wherever he is, must sleep at some point. A very comforting thought. Pause. This is the hour when grand things lose their grip. The carved stairways of Persepolis mean little in the dark. The king's inscriptions are not being read. No one is admiring the reach of empire while trying to settle a child or bank a fire. Night pulls history back down to the level of breath. In, out, in, out. There is a kind of mercy in routine. The door checked, the lamp trimmed, the ashes banked, the water set near, the animals quiet, the sleeping place made ready. These acts are small. They are also enough to hold the dark at bay. Not forever, just for one night. That is how most people have always done it. Some are sleeping in families, some alone, some in shared worker quarters, some near animals, some in houses tighter than they would wish, some in rooms that hold more memory than comfort. Still, sleep comes looking for all of them in much the same way. Slowly, then all at once. A man who spent the day carrying loads now lies still. A woman who fed others at noon and worked after sits at last. A child who seemed tireless an hour ago has gone loose with sleep. An old person pulls cloth a little higher. A sore hand rests open. A lamp lowers. This is the truest evening equality. Not wealth, not rank, weariness. Even in palace worlds, someone is doing these same last acts. A servant checks a threshold. A guard shifts weight in the dark. A cook has done enough. A stable hand listens to one restless horse. A scribe, if unlucky, rubs cramped fingers once before sleep. The empire never entirely stops, but most of it softens. And now the sentences of the day grow shorter. The room, the lamp, the wall, the heat are fading. A child asleep, a cup near the hand, dust on the hem. No one minds. Tomorrow is already waiting, but not yet. For now, the house holds. For now, the fire keeps a little red under the ash. For now, no one needs anything done. That may be the deepest comfort of night. Nothing more can be asked. The voices stop, the dark stays, the body sinks. The room becomes only warmth and shadow. One small lamp, almost done. The room is still now, so still that the smallest things stand out. A thread on the floor, a bowl by the wall, a hand at rest, the low red under ash. Outside, Persia is still there. The hills, the roads, the storehouses, the palaces, the fields, the long reach of the king. But none of that enters this room now. Not really. Night has closed the door on it. Here, there is only what remains. Warmth, breath, cloth, clay, the faint smell of smoke, a little dust, always a little dust. Somewhere far off, a guard may still be awake. Somewhere, a horse shifts. Somewhere, a traveller lies by the road station wall. Somewhere, a royal fire still burns. But here, in this small house, none of that matters much, not anymore. The day has given all it had. Water carried, bread torn, tools lifted, animals checked, children hushed, promises kept or not. Small pains endured, small comforts found. Now even memory grows soft, at the edges. This is how most lives pass. Not in stone, not in triumph, not in speeches. In rooms like this, with work behind them, with morning waiting, with sleep arriving before thought is finished. Cyrus is gone. Darius is gone. Xerxes too. The kings remain in rock and story. But the people who baked the bread, carried the jars, tied the sandals, and banked the fire are harder to see. Still, they were here, as real as the lamp, as real as the dust, as real as the hand asleep beside it. A name on clay, a ration, a road note, a counted jar. That is sometimes all that remains. And yet it is enough to know that they lived, enough to know that they grew tired, enough to know that evening came for them, just as it comes for anyone. The empire liked order, and night provides it. Not the order of law, not the order of tribute, a quieter kind, each thing in shadow, each person at rest, each sound fading in its turn. The lamp burns, lower, the room grows deeper, the walls drift back into the dark. The house is no longer a house now, only shelter, only warmth, only the dark held back for one more hour. A child turns in sleep, then stillness, a soft breath, then another. No one is thinking of the sea now. No one is thinking of armies. No one is thinking of carved stairways or royal seals. The world has narrowed past history, past empire, past even the day, to this, a little flame, a little red ash, a little human rest, and then less, the bowl, the wall, the quiet, the lamp, the dark, the room breathing, almost nothing now, only the last glow, only the last warmth in the clay, only sleep, settling over ancient Persia like a soft cloth. The lamp lowers,